Welcome back to Junker with Junior. We're finally back at it again. As I've said before, life just gets in the way of life, so it's time to get back at it and get this truck moving in the forward direction again. So, what have we got done? Well, I left off with you when I got the clutch assembly and transmission, had to figure all that with the hydraulic throw-out bearing, and that's a very... I shouldn't say very. It was for me. It was a cumbersome process. I just wanted to make sure that I got it 100% before this thing goes in the truck so that hopefully we won't need to remove the transmission later to re-shim that, because it'd be even more of a pain trying to do that on my back. So I just want to take my time and do it right. I wasn't able to film it while I was doing it because it's just too hard to do all that stuff at one time. And why would I put out a crappy video when you could go on Malwood's website and they have good instructions and videos of how to set up that hydraulic throwout bearing. There's no sense of me trying to mumble my way through it when the professionals that build this stuff have already done it and done it right. So got all that together. It's looking really sweet. Love that Cadillac blue on the engine next to the Ferguson gray. It's just a really nice clean look. Transmission looks good on there. Truck still looks like a wreck. One of the things that I talked about doing was getting all the wire harness tidied up in loom before we go back in the truck with the engine. I didn't do that because I know I'm going to forget a wire somewhere and wind up having to take it all out. However, it is very tempting. I did want to get in there and just be able to stand up and do all that instead of leaning over a fender trying to, wrap all that in loom, but it just didn't make sense. So let's see if we can get this engine up in the air and get it at the right angle, get it down in the hole. I moved the transmission cross member back so that once the transmission's in there and hanging down, then I can jack up the back of it and slide that cross member underneath the transmission to hold it in place. Should get lucky on that, I'm hoping. Let's see how it goes. Just easing her back in there, making sure I don't snag any wires on the way in or, tear up all the decent paint that we just put on there. Okay, so it is in there slightly, looking really good. That blue is something. I sure do love it, but we can't get our motor mount bolts tight yet. I did stick them in just so that we know everything's in the correct location, but let's come underneath the truck here and I'll show you what we got going on. So remember, she was an automatic. We're gonna have to drill and cut a hole in the floorboard. So I thought, well, let me get everything in place here. Got the floor jack under the transmission to kind of get it roughly where it needs to be. We'll make sure it's centered up, and then I'm thinking I'll go ahead and jack it up until that shifter stud hits the floorboard, and then we can drill a little hole through and see where it comes out on the inside and make sure everything's going to be okay, or if we'll need to pull the shifter out and move its location. So let's see where we're at. All right, we got that pilot hole drilled from the bottom like I had talked about. I jacked the transmission up and put a little marker line around it so I knew exactly where that shifter was going to be. I did pull the shifter out and flip it around so it was in the further forward position so that we have better seat clearance and we don't have to have such a goofy bend on the shifter arm or lever itself. And came inside here and I took out the center console, if you will, the cassette holder, and it had the block of wood right here, and I'll be dang if this thing still didn't have the factory plastic over the carpet. Mark III never took it up. They just put that stuff down directly over it and then they ripped the plastic around. I don't know, kind of a cool thing. I'm dumb about that kind of stuff. And just like that, we've got a shifter sticking up through the hole in the floorboard. Very nice. I think it's going to be a good location as well. And with any luck, once the shifter's in, I might play around with that console since it's definitely not going to work anymore, and see if we can modify that and still leave it in place, because it's kind of a cool looking little thing. It's part of the Mark III deal, and I want to keep as much of that as we can. So that might be a good alternative to having an actual, big bulky shifter boot. We'll see. But another thing, it's no wonder these trucks were always so awesome to drive. The insulation, it's 1.5 inches thick. It's crazy how much GM had in her there. They always knew what they were doing. She is looking good. Gosh dang, feels so good to get something accomplished on this truck again. It's really put some wind in my sails, if you will, and I know I'll be able to keep chipping away at the little things and really make some big progress on it now that the big part's out of the way. But let me go underneath here and show you my favorite part. Those are the cross member bolts. I haven't tightened them yet. They are in the factory holes, the transmission mount lined up in the factory hole. I mean, it's like it was made for this truck. It's a little things like that. To not have to drill more holes, it doesn't matter. It's no big deal if I had to drill more holes, but you don't have to. Why? I love it when something goes my way. And there's our shifter right there. I think it might have enough room, but if I need to trim a little more, we can. So like I say, we can play around with this. You can kind of see this was on here, and that located the center console. It actually locked into those little pin deals there, so we might be able to reuse that. That's going to be really exciting if we can. I do like that thing. So great progress. So I had to break down and buy some new manifolds for the truck. The driver's side, I was not able to get the studs out of the collector down here, and the passenger side, we were getting the studs out, and I realized it had a big old crack right over here. So I got one replacement for now. I'm waiting on the passenger side one to come in, but I went ahead and ground off all the rough casting and the numbers and all that sort of stuff that they had on there. I know it's kind of shiny in the picture here. It's not going to stay that way. We're going to get them painted, but I just wanted to knock all the crust off of them, the bulk of it, you know, on the top side, the outside, the part you'll see anyways. So went ahead and washed it thoroughly, degreased it, and then I put it in the oven and let it bake for 500 degrees for a while, just to let it get dried out and get any oil residue or anything you know, cooked off of it, so that we can get the best adhesion possible. So what are we going to paint it with? We went with KBS Extreme Temperature Coating Primer. Then we have the extreme temperature coating that will go on it after this is cured. So we're going to get a coat of this on here and let that get set up, and then hopefully the other one will show up and we can go through the same process with it, get it all spiffed up and ready for a coat of primer, and then we'll go ahead and give both of them some paint. Alright, so we are brushing the KBS Extreme Temperature Coating on here. Like I said, we already did the primer. That's all looking really nice. And this stuff, it's kind of thinner than what I expected, but it is paint. It does lay down really nice, so brushing it does not appear to be a problem at all. So we're just going to carry on, flip these over, get both sides nice and black, and I think we'll have a nice rust-free exhaust manifold set up. It's looking really good. Can't wait to see how they turn out. Manifolds turned out pretty sweet. I'm impressed with the paint. Is it ceramic coat? Absolutely not. But it was affordable, looks good. We'll see how well it holds up. It's a lot better than just putting them on and letting them rust right away as soon as you look at them. So hopefully it works out. Ready to bolt these dudes on. Got our studs in here, gaskets, plenty of high temp copper indices to try to prevent them from sticking if it ever has to come apart in the future. Got the world's best exhaust gaskets here, Remflex. So they're a thick graphite. They crush down to about half that thickness when they're good and snug. So it's going to take up any imperfections that you might have on, you know, warped manifolds or, you know, rusty header flanges and stuff like that. It's the best, my favorite gasket ever. We shouldn't have any issues because we got nice flat new surfaces on our manifolds, and cylinder heads look good. The bolts, we upgraded to some ARP stainless steel. Much nicer, better looking setup, so we don't have to worry about them sticking in the cylinder head neither. Nothing rusty like that. There are two that we have to use on the driver's side that go on the number one cylinder that have studs sticking out on the factory bolts do on the head. So that's where the support bracket goes for the alternator bracket. So we have to use two of the studs there, but the rest of them, they'll be nice shiny new ARP. They'll be looking good. So let's get these things bolted on. Manifolds are looking nice and fresh and clean in there. Went ahead and got all that bracketry and alternator bolted up because everything kind of interconnects on this side. This is a complicated bracket, but when it's all together, it's a really sturdy setup, so you got nothing to worry about. It's a puzzle piece to get it all in there. And over here on the passenger side, she's looking just as clean. Ain't nothing like some ARP bolts shining through there. So now that those are in place, we can carry on with a lot of other stuff. And yes, I still have to deal with all that wiring back there. Most of that goes underneath the cover, but all that stuff back there, that's what we got to sort through. I want to go ahead and get our distributor cap wires on, get everything in its place so I'm not redoing any wiring later. Just try to get it all laid out where it should be so we can do it nice and clean. I'm kind of dreading the wiring thing, but it's not bad once you get into it. Just got to be in the right mood to do it. Okay, so like I've said, there's a bunch of wiring left to do on the truck. We know that. Time-consuming work, so I'm not going to bore you guys with all those details. The next big thing on the list of things to do is the cooling system, because we are going with a brand new cold case radiator made just for this truck, so it fits right in the factory mounts and everything. Should be a really sweet setup. But if you remember, or if you paid any attention, you'd notice that there was bolts on that pulley and not the studs for the clutch. Time to upgrade. So what are we going with? Well, I picked up this universal shroud from All Star Performance. I'm just going to set it on here to give you an idea. So it's going to mount through the top and bottom channels, and I've got to trim it a little bit. This was made for a smaller fan, and the one we've got is a little bit bigger. What fan are we going with? Well, you know me, I'm a Delta PAG kind of guy. There it is. Little bit of trimming, brainstorming to go on here. They've got rubber flaps that go in here. It's for airflow when you're going down the road, and then they, fall down and seal off whenever you're at low speed or sitting at a traffic light. Got to do some wiring. With this setup, Delta PAG has a relay block, and then they have their fan controller as well. So they leave the wires kind of long because they don't know who's buying it or how it's going to go. I think that I'm going to try to mount this somewhere over here and maybe even block that off because we don't need all those, I don't think. We're going to move enough air with this fan. This is a 4500 CFM fan. She's the real deal. So we're not going to have any cooling issues with that. So get that mounted on there. Might put the relay block somewhere right in here so they're both on the passenger side close to the battery, and that'll be shorter wires, easier connections, and all that sort of stuff. Just got to do a lot of time consuming work there. So gonna get that buttoned up so we can set it in there, see how everything's gonna go. Lots of wiring to do, taking my time, doing it nice and neat. As you can see, I was already playing around, got the alternator plugged in and hooked up on the back there, and kind of just ran everything underneath the intake manifold so you don't see it. The water temp wire comes down with some high temp sleeve over, so we don't have to worry about that getting burned. A lot of little stuff like that really makes a difference in the long run. So that's going to do it for now. I've got a lot of tedious little work to do that would bore you guys to death. I'm not going to put you through that. So a lot of little things I got to get finished up on this before we move on to some bigger things like figuring out shifter handle, clutch pedal, that sort of stuff. So I'm going to get a bunch of this underhood stuff knocked out so I'm not boring you guys to death with all those little dumb details, but it makes a big difference in the end when you got all those wires tucked away in end loom, hidden nice and neat. And sometimes you can hide them just in plain sight. It looks just as good as long as it's clean and tight and right. So I hope y'all enjoyed it. Thanks for watching Junk of Junior. We will see y'all next time.